Hi everyone, I hope you're holding up well in this new reality that we're all living in. Hopefully it's a short new reality, but we're all here. I love Psalm 91. Often I read it standing over the bed, sometimes in a hospital, of someone who is ill or injured. And Psalm 91 is a psalm of God's promise of deliverance and protection. You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. And then it goes on and on to talk about how God promises to deliver us, and that the angels bear us up, that we might not dash our foot against a stone. And I love the psalm, but sometimes I feel awkward about it because it promises a lot. And the reality we live in is sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. And so sometimes we can develop doubts when we don't see this psalm actualized in our lives, when we don't feel protected, when we are afraid. So we have doubts. Another great scripture, of course, for me is that old story of Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego from the book of Daniel. And it speaks to me of when we doubt God's protection in our lives. The story, of course, is the Jews are in exile in Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar has created a golden statue and ordered everyone to bow down and worship that statue. Meshach, Shadrach, Abednego, Jews who are officials in Nebuchadnezzar's court, refuse to bow down. The king builds a great fiery furnace, and anyone who refuses to bow down is going to be thrown into that furnace. And Nebuchadnezzar warns these three men that if they don't bow down, they're going into the furnace. And I love their response to the king. It's in Daniel chapter 3. They say, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to present a defense to you in this matter. If our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire and out of your hand, O king, let him deliver us. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods and we will not worship the golden statue that you have set up." They don't ask God to deliver them. They don't know that God will deliver them. But they make their choices. They choose their behaviors based on the understanding they do have. God may deliver them, God may not. That's okay. They're going to act and they're going to behave in a way that is reflective of their tradition and their understanding of the world and of God. So even if you are experiencing doubts during this time of self-distancing, social distancing, and staying at home, I hope that you will still behave like a Christian. Sometimes when I lead new member classes, we'll talk about faith, of course, but more importantly, we'll talk about behaviors that Christians engage in. Whether your faith is strong or weak, whether you have doubts or not, here's what Christians do. Engage in them, regardless of how you feel. Pray or meditate 10 minutes a day. Breathe deeply. Smile. Okay, some of these are extra biblical, but I think they're still important. Smile, laugh, sing, be kind, be generous. Those are very biblical. Be thankful. Find time to exercise. Get rest. Get 8 hours of sleep a night. These are the practices of people of faith, even when they have doubts. One of my favorite novels is a novel called Infinite Jest, written in the mid-90s by David Foster Wallace. And I'm not going to close with a poem today, but rather I'm going to close with a scene from this great novel. It's about a fellow named Gately, and he goes to AA meetings because he's got a substance abuse problem. And this little section is all about his struggle with the spiritual aspects of AA, given that he's an atheist. And this is what he says. Since AA seems improbably enough to be working, and with no faith in your own senses, you're confused and flummoxed. And when people with AA time strongly advise you to keep coming, you nod robotically and keep coming, and you sweep floors and scrub out ashtrays and fill stained urns with hideous coffee. And you keep getting down ritually on your big knees every morning and night, asking for help from a sky that still seems a burnished shield against all who would ask aid of it. How can you pray to a God you believe only morons believe in? But the old guys say it doesn't yet matter what you believe or don't believe. Just do it, they say. And like a shock-trained organism without any kind of independent human will, you do exactly what you're told. You keep coming and coming nightly, meeting after meeting, and things start to get better. And you figure you'd better hang in to this Boston AA where older guys who seem to be less damaged, or at least less flummoxed by their damage, will tell you in terse, simple imperative clauses exactly what to do and where and when to do it, though never how or why. And at this point, you've started to have an almost classic sort of blind faith in the older guys, a blind faith in them born not of zealotry or even belief, but just of a chilled conviction that you have no faith whatsoever left in yourself. And now, if the older guys say jump, you ask them to hold their hand at the desired height. And now they've got you, and you're free. This old guy today reminds you of these behaviors. Get down on your knees in the morning. Pray for God's protection and help throughout the day. Get on your knees before you go to bed and thank God for the day you've just experienced. Things will get better.